A 65-year-old elderly man named Edward Thompson slowly pushed a crooked for sale sign into the dry soil in front of his old wooden house in rural Texas, just outside a small town near Austin. The house looked fragile, faded blue paint peeling off the walls, shutters hanging unevenly, and a roof patched more times than anyone could remember. In the backyard stood a large oak tree, its branches wide and protective, planted the day his daughter was born. To the neighbors, it was an eyesore. They stood across the street, whispering with smirks on their faces. "Who would buy that place?" one woman laughed. "It might collapse before closing day," another man added sarcastically. Edward heard them. He always did, but he kept his
I
head
grew up
down.
in this house.
That house was not just
Every
wood
crack
and
in the wall
nails.
tells a
It was
story.
where he had carried his wife, Helen,
Letting it
over
go
the
feels-
threshold
This old
as a
house,
young
it holds
bride.
so many memories.
It was where he had
I
taught
can
his
still
little
see my
girl how to
mother
ride a
standing right
bicycle
there
in the
on the
dusty
porch waiting
driveway.
for us.
It was where he had sat beside his wife's hospital bed after they brought it home for her final days. Every crack in the wall held a memory. Every creak of the floorboards carried a voice from the past. But time had not been kind. After his wife passed away, the medical bills swallowed his savings. His daughter had moved overseas years ago for work, calling when she could, sending what little she could. Edward never complained. He worked his whole life as a school janitor, quiet, unnoticed, underappreciated. Now his retirement barely covered medication for his weak heart. Climbing the porch steps left him breathless. Fixing the roof was no longer possible. That night, he sat alone under the oak tree, holding a faded photograph of Helen. His hands trembled as he whispered into the dark Texas sky, "I'm sorry, my love. I can't take care of it anymore." The next morning, while Edward was slowly watering the plants one last time, a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of the house. The same neighbors who had laughed the day before peeked through their curtains, curious now. A sharply dressed woman stepped out of the vehicle. She looked confident, successful, completely out of place in front of the worn-down house. She walked up to Edward and asked gently, "Are you Mr. Thompson? Is the house still for sale?" Edward nodded nervously. "It's old," he said quickly. "It needs work. It's nothing special." The woman's eyes softened. "Special isn't about luxury," she replied quietly. Then she asked something that made Edward freeze. "Did a man named Edward Thompson once work at Jefferson Elementary School?" His heart skipped. "That's me," he said softly. Tears filled the woman's eyes. "I probably don't remember me," she whispered. "My name is Olivia Carter." He searched her face, confused. "I was the little girl who used to come to school hungry," she continued. "The one with torn shoes. My parents were struggling, and some days I didn't eat." Edward's hands began to shake. "You used to leave sandwiches in my locker," she said, her voice breaking. "You paid for my field trips. You told me I was smart when no one else believed in me. You once said, 'Kindness costs nothing, but it changes everything.'" Tears streamed down Edward's wrinkled face. Olivia smiled through her tears. "I'm now the CEO of a healthcare company in Austin, and I'm here to buy this house." Edward lowered his head. "I understand," he murmured. "I'll pack my things." "No," she said firmly. "You're not going anywhere." He looked up, confused. "I'm buying this house," she continued, "so you can live here for the rest of your life. No rent, no bills. And I've already arranged for a medical care assistant to check on you daily." Across the street, the same neighbors who had mocked him stood speechless, their laughter gone. Within weeks, the house was restored. New roof, fresh paint, strong railings on the porch. But the old oak tree remained untouched. The old rocking chair stayed exactly where it had always been. because some things aren't meant to be replaced. Edward once believed he was invisible, just a quiet janitor no one noticed. But the seeds of kindness he planted decades ago had grown into something far greater than he ever imagined. And sometimes the people the world overlooks are the ones who quietly change it forever.